About 40% of the employers say that they're going to reduce their manpower because they're replacing them with AI. The critical skills today for a successful student would need is really. Another skill is about if you possess these two skills, and I think that you will be quite successful. Allow AI to work with you, not for you. Use them wisely.
Hi everyone, welcome to CUHK Podcast. I'm Justin, a U2 student studying artificial intelligence, system and technology, and your host for this episode. AI is transforming how we live, learn, and work, from the nature of our job to the recommendation we see online. In this episode, we are diving into how AI is influencing education, career, and even the choices that we are making every day. Today, we're honored to have invited Professor Irwin King from CUHK Department of Computer Science and Engineering to share his insight with us. Do not forget to subscribe our YouTube channel and follow us on social media to hear our latest update. So, now let's get started. Professor King, what major changes do you see AI is bringing to the job market in the next few years?
Well, AI is a disruptive technology, and it has brought in some positive and as well as some negative impact to the workforce. The positive impact would be, new opportunities are being created in some area. You, for one, being an AIST student, will be the beneficiary of that. However, there are also jobs will be lost due to this disruptive technology. I think from one study, you ask employers, about 40% of the employers say that they're going to reduce their manpower because they're replacing them with AI or other automated, technologies. And I think in the U.S., at least the recent survey, it was like 10,000 jobs were lost because of that. Okay, in one country alone, very recently. So we could talk a little bit more about how the workforce increase, which one are actually increasing and which one are decreasing. So I'll tell you is that for those are in service sectors, they're probably less affected. However, workforce that requires repetitive and maybe a little bit low level, like data entry, automation, these kind of jobs are being replaced at a very fast rate. They may include perhaps entry level of accounting, for example, even programmers. Entry level programmers are being replaced by generative AI who could write pretty good program. Okay, so there are a lot more jobs, not in the entry level, but perhaps in the a higher level for AI experts in terms of possibly prompt engineering and even ethicists on AI job policy making. So these are new jobs. They're actually being created. But we never had to worry about AI ethics, but now we do, right? So policy-wise, they have created a new opportunities for people. There are also a lot more entrepreneurship in terms of using AI as a technology in business and so on and so forth. So a lot of jobs actually being created and at the same time also being reduced at other places.
Under these changes, what essential skill and quality do you think students and professionals should have and develop to stay competitive?
Oh, yeah. I think that this is quite important. So as an educator, okay, and I think CUHK is doing some great things. Like, for example, the introduction of the digital literacy class, for example, right? So everybody will have some sense of what AI is and how to use digital technology in their everyday life. So it's not only for engineering, not only for science student, but it is really for humanity, for medicine, for social science, and many other students. So it is very important. I think the critical skills, I think today, that you will, for a successful student would need is really critical thinking. So regardless of what you do, even AI or not AI, you need really to be a critical thinker. And then we need to, and another skill is about lifelong learning. Okay, if you possess these two skills, and I think that you will be quite successful in the job market. Yeah.
So we have seen how AI impact the job market. At the same time, AI also impact a lot decision making. So I would like to ask
Mm.
how AI algorithm is being used to assist or even replace human decision making in the workplace.
Well, that's a very interesting topic and very heavy topic, because I think that big data, it was a term that was used 10 years ago, remember? And big data, in fact, is the driving force for decision making. You know, a lot of things that we do is based on the data that we could obtain, right? Whether it's sensory data or data that we can actually produce from interaction, or, and transactions and so on and so forth. So the data actually, big data, help us to actually understand our situation, our environment, our model much better. And that actually has been the driving force for decision makers to make policies and make decisions. Okay, so AI come along, and AI is excellent for in terms of analyzing, in terms of providing analytics for all these data. So AI is definitely helping decision makers, leaders, making decisions based on data that they have obtained.
In what way that AI is helping people to be more productive, efficient, and even creative?
Yeah, so I think that one interesting fact was that we did a survey a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, right after the generative AI came out. And we did a survey and we found out that the students are all using generative AI and none of the teachers were using it. Well, very small number of teachers were using generative AI. But I think now the situation is a little bit different. Generative AI is actually a very good creative tools, right? It could help you to provide a scaffolding of your concept or ideas. So when you prompt it correctly, it will provide you with, say, the structure. Like, hey, give me a structure for a particular writing topics. He will actually provide that. In fact, maybe some software like Perplexity will be able to actually help you to put more information in terms of those topics. So it does help you to be more productive in terms of writing, right? And generative AI could help you to do graphic design or image generation, video generation, even music generation. So all these things actually are helping people, workforce, to be more productive, okay, by using generative AI as well as predictive AI, okay, for assessment and other tasks.
But at this situation, do you think it would be too risky if we really rely on AI too much?
Oh, I believe so. I think that my motto is always you should be working with AI. Don't let AI just work for you. So you should be working with AI. So one of the things is the over reliance on AI. And I think even some studies have found that it reduces critical thinking in students, in people who are using it. With this over dependency, you also have bias issues. So you'll be biased, toward the AI agent that you're using, whatever the particular AI agent that you're particularly using. And that's actually a quite a common phenomena. So you have to actually be careful about not relying so much on AI. Okay, so you need to have the wisdom to know when you should use it and when you should not use it.
As we talk about the bias issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask about how can company make sure that the AI tools they use, maybe like for hiring and for performance evaluation,
Mm-hmm.
those two are fair and free from bias.
Yeah, you brought up a very good point because a couple of years ago, there were cases being found that even the algorithm, those are predictive algorithms, they were not fair. They were biased. So, colored people were hit with higher criminal record rates, okay, because the color of their skin. Okay. So, so what we have done, I'm particularly working in that area of research, is called trustworthy AI. And trustworthy AI is trying to remove bias, trying to remove all these unfairness, okay, from the model itself. We want to make sure that the data that we've been trained on, they are correct. They're balanced, right? So you don't have a very imbalanced data. And then the model itself, we have to make sure that it's not biased. Okay. So in this trustworthy AI, we worry about security, privacy, fairness, interpretability. So when doctors say, hey, how did you actually tell me that here's a diagnosis of a cancer? Tell me the process, right? The system, the AI should be able to tell you, how did I interpret, or how do I arrive to this stage to interpret that this is a cancer cell or whatever. But anyway, these are some of the things that we as researchers in trustworthy AI would tend to focus on. And that's what we're trying to do, is to ensure that we have a fair and unbiased system.
I see. AI
Yeah.
does have a lot of impact on productivity.
Mhm.
And moving on, we want to discuss about
Mhm.
AI is always shaking up the education.
No.
So how is AI actually transforming teaching and learning, especially when we're talking about professional development and student continuing education?
AI has been a disruptive technology, and in education, it definitely is disrupting how education is being viewed. Right. One of the reason is very simple. First of all, there's an overabundance of available material on the internet. Right. You could probably get on YouTube a lot of lectures from great people, Coursera, edX, and so on and so forth. You could actually get many things for free. And AI, and also is being introduced in your student writing, for example, creative work, generating arts, and so on and so forth, right? All those things are actually being used. And teacher use that for example, pedagogy or curriculum design, pedagogy implementation, even to some points assessment, right? To assess your work. So being the creator of a Very Guy, we assess students' work, text work, to see whether they actually a copy from other sources, right? So all these things are actually coming, and I think AI is transforming. And on one hand, it's definitely helping teacher, student learn better and teach better. But on the other hand, again, I want to go back to what I said before. I don't want the student to over rely on AI. I want them to have critical thinking skills. The success of a future learner, I believe, is in knowledge, is in the skill that they have, and actually in their attitude. And I hope that the student will be able to, have all these three by using AI properly.
And I would like to also ask one very interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
How might AI help predict skills gap or even guide people toward their new job
Wow.
before the current role is being outdated?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that AI could do that. AI definitely could pull out some of the data and the trends. Okay, so I think AI could predict like what kind of job will there be and what kind of job will be lost. And I think this is a good question to ask also AI to find out from the current data, the workforce data, the labor data, and so on and so forth. In terms of the gap, like I said, I think Jobs that is related to AI will continue to be very popular and hot. Jobs related to service, like serving people, that has to be person to person. Those jobs will continue to remain very popular and hot. And so words to the students and the learner is that, again, focus on your critical thinking and build up key skills and key knowledge, and to pave your career path for the future.
So moving on, we all know that AI is also making changes to our online behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how exactly are AI algorithms being used to change our online behavior based on the online content?
Okay, so I also been studying social media. I think social media has really changed the way that we behave and interact with one another. I think one of the most obvious thing that I observed recently is the overabundance of fake or generated uh, images, or fake news, or fake data, or fake material that is being generated by AI. And that has actually influenced many things. It could be even a political situation. So, and even for financial fraud. So, cybersecurity, for example, is being on the lookout for all these AI generated contents, and that is definitely one concerns that we have. How do we distinguish the real thing from the fake? Not the fake one. Maybe it's the AI generated one, right? And so, what is real and what is not? And I think that's one of the hardest thing that they want to do. So, detection of fake news, detection of generated images, and so on and so forth. That's really a hot topic right now in social media. Yeah.
I do see that AI
Mhm.
raised a lot of
Yeah,
concern.
absolutely.
On the other hand, there is an issue called echo chamber, which
Mm.
also caused by AI. So how could AI prevent it or even be more free from bias and more fair?
Um, so this echo chamber effect is that, I guess, what you say will be kind of be fed back and repeated back to you. And I think, again, um, uh, uh, obviously, individual, independent, critical thinking is important here, right? So when you actually detect this echo chamber effect, I think that it has to be first self-awareness. If you don't have that self-awareness, you will not be able to actually tell whether this is actually a echo chamber effect. So again, go back to what I perceive as importance: self-awareness, critical thinking, and make sure that you understand the pros and the cons of what AI could bring you. And then from there on, I think that you will be a much safer a place on the internet for you. Yeah.
So we have seen AI touches many aspects of life. So what people should especially talking about the government, the education
Hmm.
institute,
Hmm.
or even normal people, we should do to react and prepare for the expanding role of AI in our life.
Mm. Well, that's a really heavy question, but I think, from a researcher point of view, right? We were really just so surprised, and I'm very delighted to see what generative AI has brought to this world. I think, at least for now, I think that there are a lot of positive, a lot of things being more productive, more creative, and so on and so forth. Of course, there are downsides. And I think that the government is very keen on setting up proper AI policies, okay, to, like I shared before, trustworthy AI. So, how we could be more private, more secure, how to make AI non-destructive, but work on the positive value of the people, not to create weapons or, mass weapon of destruction and things like that. So those are the things I think that the government is keen on working. And I do believe, China, Europe, EU, even U.S., many of these countries already have some sort of policy to protect people, okay, and to kind of restrict and limit the power of AI right now.
We covered pretty a lot of things about AI. So before we sum up a little bit, I would like to ask one final question. So Professor King, what's the one key takeaway you hope our audience can remember from today's conversation?
One key takeaway. So I shared this earlier. I think AI is here to stay. That's one thing. But really, allow AI to work with you, not for you. So make sure you have your own, you understand the advantage and disadvantage of these AI tools and use them wisely.
It's clear that AI is something more than just a piece of advanced technology. It raises important questions no matter it's about a job and also about our decision making. Thank you, Professor King, for sharing such thoughtful insight with us and help us understand this complex issue. If you enjoyed today's episode, do not forget to give us a like, subscribe our YouTube channel, and also share this video to a friend. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.